Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Theravada Buddhism series, Dharma talk number 30. Rootless consciousness. Ahituka Citta. Before we go into the rootless consciousness, Ahituka Citta, we need to understand consciousness with root. Ahituka. This word Hetu in English is root, R-O-O-T, root, cause or condition. So root, what does it mean? How does it apply here? In general, roots keeps a plant or a tree alive and grow. For a plant and tree, roots are key. They feed the plant or tree to grow, to stay alive. And in Dharma, root, Hetu, is mental factors, Cetasika, that accompany consciousness to become active, giving rise to karma. There are 6 kinds of roots that feed consciousness. They are greed, lobha, anger, dosa, delusion, moha. Non-greed are lobha, non-anger are dosa, and non-delusion are moha. 6 roots. The first 3 evil roots accompany unwholesome consciousness, and the latter 3 good roots accompany wholesome consciousness of the mundane world. Lokiya, mundane world. Consciousness with roots always produce wholesome or unwholesome karma, because the roots are feeding. Evil roots produce unwholesome karma. Good roots feeds into to produce wholesome karma. So that's what roots mean, and consciousness with roots. Now let's see rootless consciousness, Ahituka Citta. When Hetu, root, when you put a prefix of A, automatically it negates the meaning. Ahituka means rootless. Ahituka Citta. Consciousness without the 6 roots is called rootless consciousness. They are devoid of roots. But here there's a point to remember. If one takes the meaning of Hetu as cause, because the meaning has a root, cause, condition. But if you take the word cause for Hetu, automatically Ahitu becomes causeless. But we all know in Buddhism, nothing arises without cause or causes. So, don't use cause as the English translation for Hetu in this case. But take root as translation in this particular case. Rootless consciousness is the result of past lives' karma. It does not have any mental factors that can produce new karma, because they are the result. Keep point. These rootless consciousness are the result of past life karma. So it is a result. And as it is a result, and as they don't have any mental factors that can produce new karma, they are called rootless consciousness. There are 18 rootless consciousness, and they are divided into 3 groups. The first group has 7 rootless, unwholesome, resultant consciousness. One of the quality is rootless. The second quality is unwholesome. And third is resultant. Prefix of the consciousness. Ahituka, akusala, vipaka citta. That's the name of the first group. Rootless, unwholesome, resultant consciousness. And altogether 7 in that group. The second group consists of 8 rootless, wholesome, resultant consciousness. The difference between the first group and second group is wholesome and unwholesome. The remaining are the same. That's the second group. 7 plus 8, 15. And the third group consists of 3 rootless, functional consciousness. The third root consists of 3, and it is called rootless, functional consciousness. In Pali, Ahituka, Kriya Citta, Kriya, Citta. So there are 18 rootless consciousness divided into 3 groups based on wholesome, unwholesome, and functional. So the first 2 group is wholesome and unwholesome, resultant. The first 2 groups of consciousness, to understand it, one need to understand the full meaning of the word vipaka. Pali word vipaka. What does it mean? You see, in the past lives, one has done many good and bad actions. Some of those actions become ripened or mature in this life. Not all, but some, based on the conditions, they become mature in this life. That karma of past life produce, or one can say manifest, a new body in this life and a new mind in this life. This new body and new mind are the product of past life karma. Even though there is a body and mind. Body means physicality, mind means mentality, product of karma. When we use the word vipaka, in English, resultant, vipaka, it refers to mentality only, not physicality. Vipaka refers to mentality, which means consciousness and mental factor, not materiality. This vipaka or resultant must be identical to its cause. What are the cause? It's the volitions or karma of past life. Whatever the volitions of karma of past life, this resultant in this life must be identical to it. So, unwholesome karma of past life will produce the unwholesome resultant consciousness in this life. Wholesome karmas of past life will produce wholesome resultant consciousness in this life. That's what it means by identical. Apple tree cannot produce orange. Orange tree cannot produce apple. Similarly, 8 rootless, wholesome, resultant consciousness, the second group. 8 rootless, wholesome, resultant consciousness can be understood the same way as the first group. The only difference is wholesome and unwholesome. That's the difference. Here is kusala, wholesome. The first group is akusala, unwholesome. That's a difference. The 8 rootless, wholesome, resultant consciousness of the current life, the present life, results from the wholesome volition or karma or past life. Again, trying to show the cause and the effect must be identical in terms of the quality, wholesome or unwholesome. As the resultant consciousness, vipaka citta, resultant consciousness, vipaka citta, for those who studies Pali, is the effect of the result of past karma. It possesses no power to produce a new karma. All resultant consciousness, all vipaka citta cannot make a new karma. They don't have the power to make new karma. The arising of these resultant consciousness is dependent on a sense object of the present moment in this life. They will arise whenever you engage with a sense object. They will arise. That's the first consciousness that arises. However, the mental reaction, the mental reaction towards these arising objects will and can create new karma. That's how new karmas are being accumulated in this life. Not from the resultant consciousness. Resultant consciousness is simply the result of past life karma. And they arise in this life whenever one engages with the sense object. And then the reaction to that sense object creates new karma. Those are the sharp distinctions one needs to understand. The frequency of these pleasant or unpleasant objects that are arising in this life is due to the karma of the past life. In other words, if you have done a lot of wholesome action in the past life, you will encounter higher frequency of pleasant objects. But if one has engaged in a lot of unwholesome actions in the past life, one will experience a lot more unwholesome, unpleasant objects in this life. That's what identical means. Not only the mind, the object that pops up, that you see, that you experience, that you contact, are also identical. Pleasant object or unpleasant object. So we can say actions we have done in the past lives programmed or rootless resultant consciousness. You engage with the sense object. Pleasant object will give you the pleasant feeling. Unpleasant object will give you the unpleasant feeling. And as soon as you engage with that object, the consciousness that arises is called rootless resultant consciousness. The third group, Ahituka Kriya Citta. This third group consists of 3 rootless functional consciousness. This one is functional, not resultant. Functional consciousness. Here, the word kriya, 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 means performing its function or job. Just simply performing its function, or just performing its job, doing its job. The primary part or the primary of Kriya Citta, this functional consciousness, is to arise by taking an object and disappearing. That is its function. Whenever there is a Kriya Citta, what is happening? It arises. Of course, when it arises, there must be an object. It arises together with the object and simply disappear. That is the function of Kriya Citta. It doesn't do anything more or anything less. Such consciousness has no craving for all actions, because people, whenever they are facing with a situation, condition and object, they do something. There's an action. Always, regardless. But when there's a Kriya Citta, they still do the same functions, the same actions. They still engage with it. But they disappear without leaving any trace or residue behind. The reason is, in such person, all kilesa, mental defilements, greed, anger and delusions are completely uprooted. As such person has completely uprooted the kilesa, even though they do a job with the functional consciousness, they leave no trace or residue. That's why it is called rootless as well. Rootless because it has no power to produce karma. So, not just simply Kriya Citta, functional consciousness, also with the word rootless. That's why it is called, in this particular group, called Ahituka Kriya Citta, rootless functional consciousness. So we are talking about this particular heading, rootless functional consciousness. This is the third group. But functional consciousness, just simply functional consciousness, Kriya Citta. There are 20 of them. There are 20. The first three, rootless functional consciousness, which we have just simply stated before. They are called, one, sense door adverting consciousness. Second, mind door adverting consciousness. And smile producing consciousness. Those three fall under the rootless functional consciousness. The first three of the 20. However, the first two of the three rootless functional consciousness arises in everybody, including the Buddha and arahants. The first two, sense door adverting and mind door adverting, arises in every beings, everybody, including Buddhas and arahants. But the remaining 18 appears or arises only in the Buddha and arahants. Nobody has that kind of a consciousness, 18 functional consciousness. Only the Buddhas and arahants. Not even the first noble person or the second noble person or the third noble person. They don't have it. The fourth noble person, arahant, and the Buddhas, the consciousness arising in them are only those 18 functional consciousness. So that gives you the idea of what rootless consciousness, Ahituka Citta, is. 18 of them split into three groups. One is unwholesome group. Second is wholesome group. Third is Kriya group. In that Kriya group, there are only three under the heading of rootless. There are only three. But functional by itself has 20. Two arises in everybody, including Buddha and arahants. The remaining 18 arises only in Buddhas and arahants. So that gives you a fuller understanding of what rootless consciousness is. If you want to understand the first two rootless functional consciousness, sense door adverting and mind door adverting, if you want to understand fully and thoroughly, listen to the dependent origination Dharma talk number 7. If you listen to it, you will have a full understanding. And even if you do, go and listen again. It can bring you a better perspective. May all of you be able to understand how your minds work and see what is good and what is evil. Develop all things that are good and avoid all things that are evil. And purify the mind. That's what Buddha told us. Do good, avoid evil, and purify the mind. And to purify the mind, if you understand it in details, you will have an advantage to work through things. May all of you be able to practice Satipatthana Vipassana meditation and attain Nibbana as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much.